Hello everyone, this is Brad Wood, and today I have another video for you in the screencast series, What's New in Commandbox 4. I want to talk a little bit about the logs available for your servers. We've made some improvements to the existing servlet out log, and we have a couple new log files you can enable. Now, if you want a full overview of everything that's been added to Commandbox 4, you can check out this blog post here. This is released when we released our release candidate for testing, and it has an overview of all the new cool things available, including a section on server logs. So first and foremost, you're going to want to check out the docs that we have on this. Under the embedded server portion, there's an entire page talking about server logs. Now, there's two sort of types of logs. There's logs that are created by the ColdFusion engine itself, such as Lucy or ColdFusion. All of those logs are there just like they would be on a normal server. This page in the docs kind of covers an example server and all of the Lucy logs that would exist and about where you could go to find those. Also, ColdFusion has its own set of built-in log files that the ColdFusion engine generates, and this page here in the docs will tell you how to get to those. What I'm wanting to focus on today, however, is the log files that Commandbox creates for you. The first is the servlet out log. On a traditional Lucy or Tomcat installation, this is usually named Catalina out. On a ColdFusion server, it's typically called ColdFusion-out.log. So here I have an empty directory. Well, it's not empty. It has a very simple index.cfm file that just simply does a system output. You have to read that in your Doc Holiday voice. I'm your Loggleberry. And so that will just dump out to the server's out log. So whenever we hit the page, we can kind of see that show up in the logs. So let's start up a server in this directory. By default, this will just be a Lucy 5 server. Okay, so server's up and running. There's really nothing being output to the page. So there's a few commands you can run to view this log file. There's server log, which will dump out the entire contents of the out log for you. Now this, if we kind of scroll all the way up to the top, includes everything that came from the ColdFusion engine when it started up. Since this is a brand new Lucy server, there's quite a bit of junk that Lucy spits out here as it comes up. You can see Fusion Reactor loading, you can see some other things. So right off the bat, you'll notice that we have some color-coded starts to the line here that show the info messages. Let's scroll down here. I think if there was some other message formats in here. Here we go. So there's some error messages. Looks like that Jetty was unhappy about something. So the color-coded markers are kind of handy when you're looking at your log files. You can quickly pick out the difference between debug info, warn, and error messages. And of course, when the browser opened, it hit that index.cfm and it output that I'm your Loggleberry message as well. And that came from my ColdFusion code, whereas the rest came from the servlet engine. Just for completeness, let me show you where that log file, in fact, where all three of these log files will live. My Commandbox home is right here. Under server, here's my log demo, and if we click into Lucy logs, here's the server.out.log or .text, and this is literally the log file we were just viewing from the command line. This is where this gets output. If you ever want to programmatically find the location of the server's logs, you can do server info property. I believe it's console log path. There we go. That'll tell you where the log file is located. So if you want to create some kind of dynamic integration that wants to mess with these log files, you can do that. So that's where the log file is. That's how you can dump it out. There's also the ability for the server log command. It has a follow flag, and this will tail the log file for you. And I really like this feature. If I dump my CLI in that window and I dump my browser in this window, if I sit here and I hit the refresh button, the F5 key, in the browser, you can see it's dumping those log files out that I'm logging with that system output command, right? So as your application is running, you can sit there and tail the output of a log file from the command line, which is a very handy thing to do. And when you're done, you hit Control-C, and it stops tailing the log file. So that was server log -- follow. So this log file has always been there. We just made it a little bit prettier with the colored output. There's two additional types of log files you can now use in Commandbox 4, and let's look at them real quick. The first one is an access log, and we can enable that with server set web.access_log enable equals true. That will fire up the access log, which is basically the same kind of log file you would get from IIS or from Apache. Every time a request comes into your web server, you get one line of a log file, and it follows the common logging format. So other tools meant to consume, like Apache log files, would be able to read this log file. And then I'll turn on the other log file at the same time. So this is a rewrite log file, and we did this because a lot of times it's really hard to troubleshoot rewrites, URL rewrites that aren't working, and so we broke that out into a separate log file so you can kind of track it separately. So let's do a server set rewrites. Let's actually turn on URL rewriting, and then rewrites dot log enable equals true. Okay, so we've enabled the access log. We've also enabled URL rewriting as well as the rewrite log. Let's stop the server, and I'm going to start it again. And this time I'm going to do a debug start because that will get a little bit more information out into these log files, specifically that rewrite log. Of course, the debug start will spit a bit more out to the screen as it comes up for us. Okay, and here's my browser. So let's go back to that directory where that server out .txt log file is. There's now two additional files that got created here. One is the access log, one is the rewrite log. And you can see the access log looks just like an Apache access log file would, shows your user agent from the browser, the status code, the URL of what was being hit. And then the rewrites log comes from the Tucky rewriting engine. So if I just hit refresh a few times on my page, we'll see that the access log is a handful of lines. So here's the nice thing about this. You can interact with it using the same server log command. Server log by itself uses that server out log, but we can add -- access, and we can get the contents of the access log. Or we can do server log -- rewrites, and this will show us the contents of the URL rewrite. Let's actually see if we can get a rewrite to fire. If I just do /main, that should still hit index.cfm. Here we go. So now we can see processing a request for /main. Execution needs to be forwarded to index.cfm/main. So the rewrites log can be really handy to show you what's being rewritten on each request, or if it was rewritten at all. And what's even cooler now is that we can also add the follow flag in here as well. So if I go back to going side-by-side browser and command line, I can hit refresh and we can see the access log is updating automatically to show the incoming request. If I stop this and go back over to rewrites, we can add the follow flag to our rewrites log, and I can also come back and refresh the browser, and we can stream past the logging from the rewrites. So we're really excited about this. We put a lot of work into these, and you can see the color coding again here really helps. The contents of what you see in the rewrite log is also controlled by, I mentioned the debug start. There's another kind of server start you can do that gives you even more fine-grained information, and that is a trace, -- trace. So this is kind of like opening the fire hose, if you will. This gives you a lot of information in the servlet out log that's extra, and it also gives you a lot deeper information on the rewrites. So if I come and hit this page here that fires a rewrite again, we can come in here and we can do server log rewrites. And we can see there's just lines and lines of stuff. It actually goes through your entire rewrite rules and shows you the outcome of every single little condition that gets executed. Not something you'd want on in production, but can be super duper handy for development when those rewrite rules don't work and you're just kind of throwing your hands in the air and you're not sure why they're not working. So keep these in mind going forward with your Commandbox servers. You can now really kind of, drop in Commandbox as a replacement for something like IIS and Apache, and you even have the standard access logs available to you. Also, I mentioned you guys that little trick on the server info where you were able to get the console log path, right? You can also do the same thing if you want to dynamically get the access log path. You can get that out of the server info command, and you can also ask it for the rewrite log path as well. So you can programmatically get at the paths to these log files for a server via that server info command, which is pretty handy. Okay, that's it for now. You guys have fun playing around with this in Commandbox 4, and have a good one.